let's go to the Plains, the Big 12. Man, this game was really exciting a couple weeks ago. It's kind of lost a little bit of its luster, but I don't necessarily say like a ton of its luster. Oklahoma, the Sooners 7-0 right now. They survived the scare from UCF. They came down off that big win from against Texas and survived a scare against the Knights. Kansas, Rock Chalk Jayhawk at 5-2. And congratulations, Kansas. You guys, I'm going to give you the honorary. You are the most dedicated fan base for supporting our podcast in the entire United States. So, hey, thank you, Kansas fans, if you're listening and watching this. So we appreciate you all. But Oklahoma, man, they have looked just fantastic, especially after how rough last year went. And we kind of started to see signs of it, especially in that bowl game against Florida State. Dylan Gabriel, fresh. This kid, we were just a year too early on him. I guess that's the best way to put it. Like, we talked about Dylan Gabriel 2 years ago, 2,100 yards, 19 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. He's been phenomenal. Got running backs Marcus Majors, Tawee Walker, both of them helping him out. Gosh, this is a great Oklahoma team. I'm loving it. I'll turn it over to you, Fresh. What you got for Oklahoma, Kansas?
I think the first we got to tip the cap to Brett Venables. He put in a great recruiting class, but he also hit the transfer portal real hard and redid this entire roster because last year was pretty rough. And people had some dire straits of, is he the right guy? And even through the season, it started out they blew out some teams. They kind of looked a little rough for Cincinnati. There's a noon kick, whatever. But they were prepared for Texas, and that was from the very jump. You saw them focused defensively, offensively. They took advantage of Texas mistakes and put touchdowns on the board. And then Gabriel on the last drive, guiding down the field, hit the game-winning touchdown, which cost me a lot of money in Vegas, but we're going to move on from that. But Oklahoma they've rallied around each other of we are Oklahoma and we're going to do it whatever way we have to do it. And that's been coaching. That has been the players owning it up and being responsible and he holding each other accountable. There's a connection there on this team that it's rare, and you start seeing guys who weren't really highly acclaimed. Like any of us coming in, we're like, who's the leading receiver on this football team? What are we gonna, Stoops' son? That's the kind of way you look at the roster. And here we are. The running backs have all found themselves. They have their rotation. The receivers are making plays. They're reliable. And Gabriel, who he showed flashes at UCF, got injured. Didn't know if he's going to be able to rebound last year, and he played okay. How was that career going to take off? And he's now got himself in his major rebound from getting over the injury, fully recovered, and is the true leader of this team. And it's more impressive. He's held off Jackson Arnold. We came into the
Ooh,
year. Is Jackson Arnold going to be in competition?
right.
How's Gabriel going to play? Maybe that was what he needed, the motivation of. He was a veteran quarterback supposed to be there last year, sort of fill the gap for year one, see what happens. Right now, he's looking over his shoulder and telling that five-star quarterback, sit down, young boy, I'm in charge. And he's not letting go of the spot. And the team is sort of, hey, they're making plays. And it's good to see. This team is on the cusp of a playoff spot. They know they have it right there in for them. They just take care of business the rest of the way. They're in. I think you'll get one, maybe even play Texas again. That's two ranked wins over Texas. That's pretty eye popping. That puts you in the playoff, in my opinion, if you're undefeated, because there aren't many other ranked wins on their schedule. But they're minding their own business, doing what they have to do, and keep plowing forward. Last week, I think they were hungover. They didn't take UCF as seriously. Gus Malzahn always can be a little sneaky. If he made a better play call there on the 2-point conversion, they might have been losing. But you know what? Teams that end up playing in conference title games, they get lucky along the way. And maybe that was their lucky game where they survived. And I think now this week you're going to have a much more focused Oklahoma team who gets past that one clunker of a football game and really is going to be able to move forward because they see the end at the tunnel. They see Kansas this week. They got Bedlam coming up. They know there's a path there for them. And now we can be motivated. We've got past our one sleepy game and moving forward. On the other side now, Kansas, we saw them play real well early in the year. They've been up and down lately. Jalen Daniels dealing with injuries early on. He's not been fully consistent in the lineup. Like you said, there's no injury reports. Is he going to play? Is he not going to play? Who knows? Jason Bean has filled in very, very nicely for the
Yes.
Jayhawks at quarterback. Um, we always kind of look, if Daniels is down, who's going to show up? But Bean has actually been there and been really hasn't been much of a drop off at the quarterback position. You look at Daniels right now through the season, completed about 75% of his passes for 705 yards, 5 touchdowns, 1 pick, and actually in the rating system they have out there, one rating system has it at a 173. Looking at Bean, he's completed 65% of his passes for 913 yards, 9 touchdowns, 2 picks, and a rating of 173. Almost identical between the two of them. And they both have 27 carries for less than 100 yards. So neither of them are actually using the ground game. Now, let's be mindful, sacks are taken away from the rushing stats, so factor that in there and when it comes down to less than 100 yards rushing. But they're almost identical from a quarterback position. And that also goes to the coaching staff, Lance Leipold, getting your quarterbacks in positions to be successful, throw touchdowns, and not turn the football over. And if you're trying to pull off upsets, you do not turn the football over. Let's see if Bean or Daniels, if he's healthy, can play and be able to manage through, keep their team in the down and distance. They played great versus Texas. They didn't play a full game though? Can they play a full game versus Oklahoma and get an upset? To do that, Devin Neal, the running back, has got to be a superstar. He's got to have the ball a lot, and whether it's in the passing game and the ground game, he's got to be very involved to keep that Kansas offense moving and to score touchdowns when they get in the red zone. Speaking of the red zone, Kansas and Virginia Tech are the only two college football FBS football programs that have allowed points to their opponents on every trip into the red zone. So Oklahoma, if you get into the 20-yard line, you're scoring. Can Kansas finally get a stop? Can they stop Oklahoma in the red zone? If they can, that shows the defense making a turn and showing improvement. If not, Oklahoma's going to get inside the 20s. They're going to score, and the streak's going to continue. Um, will Kansas defense show up and get a turnover? Can they shorten the field? Can somebody make a play on that side of the football to slow down Gabriel and that Oklahoma offense? Because right now, I think they're finding a groove. They're putting up points. They don't feel like they're going to get stopped. Can you show up and make a play and get off the field and help your offense and shorten the field potentially to set up a go-ahead score? In the end, I think the Sooners cover. It's 10. I think they cover that. I think the over at 65.5 is going to hit. We're going to see some
Ooh.
points. I think we'll see some points from Kansas. They'll provide some offense, but in the late in the second half, Oklahoma will pull away and cover that 10.
Fresh, this is a noon kick, and yeah, it is in Kansas, so there's that factor as well. With everything that we've talked about with Oklahoma, we're being remiss if we don't mention the freshman superstar that they have. Yeah, they have a superstar in the waiting quarterback in Jackson Arnold. We think he's going to be a very, very good quarterback when his time comes. And I love the fact that you said that Dylan Gabriel has basically said, kid, watch and learn. Let me show you how it's done here. But Nick Anderson, no, we're not talking about the Nick Anderson that played from the Orlando Magics back in the day that bricked a couple of free throws. We're talking about the 6'4 freshman, 209-pound kid who has 16 catches on the year, and half of them have gone for touchdowns. Kid's averaging 24 yards a catch. This kid is ridiculous. Like, absolutely ridiculous. Take a look what he did against UCF. He balled out in that game. 5 catches, 105 yards, 2 touchdowns. How does Kansas match up with that kid? Like, that's going to be my question going into this game. Can Kansas do something where they can neutralize him? Are you going to double coverage him? And then all of a sudden, when you start double coveraging him, it's going to leave a lot of things open underneath. That's where Stoops has shined for them. Those underneath passing routes, and you saw it in the Texas game. Texas would drop back. They have a deep safety back, and they were just nickel and diming them all the way down the field and using the short passing game, 5, 6, 7 yards a catch. And then all of a sudden, Oklahoma's sitting at the 15-yard line, and you're like, how in the world did they get down the field so quickly? And I think that's the uniqueness of what Venables has done at Oklahoma for this offense this season. I think it helps immensely that they have Dylan Gabriel back. I think it's amazing that Dylan Gabriel is fully healthy this season and doing the things that we knew that he could do. As for the Jayhawks, this has been a great season for them. If they pull off this upset, it's probably maybe an all-time great season. They're bowl eligible automatically. They're going to be in line for a late December bowl. I don't necessarily know if they're going to pick a New Year's Day 6 bowl if this, but you could see them, pull off one that we have a lot of respect for. You could see them in the Duke's Mayo Bowl or something like that, where someone's putting mayo on their head, or you take a look at what was the one that North Carolina, Oregon played last year.
Out in San Diego.
Yeah, the Holiday Bowl.
Yep.
So that would be, again, another type that Kansas gets over to, because this is a really good Kansas team. I think Oklahoma's going to win. I think Oklahoma's going to cover that 10 points there. And also, I agree with you. I think a lot of points are going to be put up here. But the difference in this team is Kansas is only +2 in the turnover margin. Oklahoma's done a really great job of protecting the football and forcing turnovers. They're +10 in the turnover margin. I think that's a big thing for them. Oklahoma's defense, while they do give up some yardage in this, they're going to figure out a way to turn over the Jayhawks 1 or 2 times in this game. Give Dylan Gabriel a short field, let him punch it in a few times there. But yeah, so I got Oklahoma win this game. They're cruising because next week is Bedlam, and what could be is the final Bedlam in the near future. There's no plans for that game to take. So Oklahoma's got to be careful in that one too, though. Like, this is a zombie Oklahoma team in 2023. They have risen from the dead and are munching on the rest of the Big 12's brains right now.
Oh, actually, bring up, could they be looking ahead to Bedlam and maybe overlook Kansas? Who knows? That actually
Possibly.
might set up. It's an 11 a.m. kick there in the Midwest. Sleepy, maybe not ready to play. So anything can happen. That's why college football is so crazy.